we are mildly interesting guys, and we talk about some stuff. So welcome to the podcast, we call it Joel the Podcast. It's Alex and it's Alex, here for Joel the Podcast. Bzz. Hello everybody, I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our podcast, Joel. Yeah, I know this is like the third week in a row where I'm not remembering, but once I get one, I'll remember. But is this episode 83?
I'm pretty sure it's 84, but I'm also a little confused because...
How am I off by one every single time?
I think in this case, maybe it's because we didn't I don't know if you pay attention when we post the episodes, but I don't think we've posted 83, and that's because I didn't see your recording uploaded.
Yeah, that's what I was just checking, and I'm uploading it right now. Joel 83.
So, live on the podcast, we're going to put together last week's podcast. Not really, though. Did we podcast last week? Have we been podcasting every week for a while now?
Yeah, I think so.
It's just we haven't been posting them.
I don't actually remember the last time we missed.
Yeah.
We've definitely podcasted every week this year.
Good for us. That's quite an accomplishment.
Let's pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah.
All right. Or our necks, because that's what you do.
I mean, I would have had to lean forward from my chair to actually reach my back, so...
Rip.
That's out of the question.
Right.
Look
all right,
at that.
so...
Joel 83.
Welcome to episode 84 of Joel the Podcast.
Yep.
Which I think I said it was last time, and then this time I said 83, so that's a rip.
I could maybe, since I haven't released 83 yet, I could edit out the part where you said 84...
No, just in each of this one and the last one, edit out the parts where talk about how I'm wrong. Just leave in the part where I said that's what the episode it is, and then swap them so I'm right.
Oh man!
I think we spent a little too long talking about how I'm wrong. So
yeah, if we cut all this out, we're gonna have a short episode. We need this padding.
Welcome to episode 84. I wanted to remind everyone that Nathan does not owe me $1.
Do you owe me $1? I'm actually not sure. I think you still owe me $1.
I owe you $1.
Alright, well let it be known that Alex still owes me $1. And, we're closing in on our next, opportunity to make lots of bets. So. Yeah,
so next Sunday is Selection Sunday. Ooh. As we record this.
That means next episode we can talk about it.
So I don't think we'll have all our brackets made by next episode, or maybe we will.
I doubt it.
Either way, we can decide on what the bets will be next episode.
Right. We should decide, and then determine as we go some number of brackets so that we're kind of in agreement on what the plan is, right? So.
Right. I was actually thinking it would just be you pick one bracket to be your main bracket.
So there's the you can do whatever you want, but then there's the podcast bracket.
Right. There's this one is the official one for bets, because otherwise you'd be okay, we have one bet for picking the most upsets, so I'll just pick every upset in one of my brackets, and then guaranteed to pick all the upsets.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think one official podcast bracket, and you can make. I'll be making, and I assume you will be making other brackets, but that's it's going to be the policy. All right, so let's get into our minute of sports here.
Yeah, so we've had as we just alluded to, we're kind of winding down on some sports, and personally, I don't really care about the rest of the sports. So let's see if we can manage a full minute. What do you think?
I bet we can. Here we go. So Purdue is tied for 20th in this week's AP basketball poll after winning their last two games.
It's definitely a lot lower than I was expecting them to be, especially after they were 16th on the Reddit poll.
Right.
16th feels about right to me, but
it's interesting because as we were discussing, it's not like obvious what teams you would put them ahead of that are above them right now.
Right.
So I don't know, but it does seem like they're a consensus 4 seed in most brackets, which means they're in the top 16.
Yeah, I guess the way I'm thinking about it is that they've been like performing so well that I would expect them to be ranked higher, but like their actual games aren't really that much better than anyone else's games. Like if we were to actually play,
right? Their resume is like, yeah. I mean, the thing is, they have a Q3 loss to Miami.
Yeah.
So gross. Anyway, wow, that was the entire minute. I went to do a prediction, but I guess it's too late now.
Nope, no need. We'll have plenty of predictions next week.
Yep.
Or the week after, I guess.
So that brings us to... did we receive any emails this week?
I doubt it because we didn't post an episode, but let me check real quick just to be sure. If you're listening to this episode and you tend to like email us in response to stuff, which I feel like is basically all of the emails we get,
right?
Is just in response to our most recent episode, and that's great. Like I don't want to take away from those emails, but I feel like what we're really missing as a podcast, and it's definitely the listener's fault, is just that constant stream of engagement, whether or not we produce content.
Right. Like, why aren't you, the listener, reaching out to us and, trying to talk to us and have a dialogue with us, absent of our content? Like, I know that's the only service we provide and that's the only reason that you're here, but, what's up? What's wrong?
Yeah. Go ahead and email us your answer to that question in direct response to this podcast. And then just, next time we don't post an episode for a week, email us something else. Just, come up with some original ideas and send us emails about them. That would be a lot of fun.
And where can they find that email?
Well, I think if you wanted to email us, you should probably visit our website. alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website/index.html, or in fact, any of the pages on our website, really, because I'm pretty sure almost everywhere you click on any page is a link to our email.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, we're looking forward to never not having an email to read on the podcast again.
Right. Did you email Ben those rules?
Oh, no, I didn't. By the time he listens to this, we almost certainly will have, though. So we can just pretend, right?
Yeah. So Ben, let us know what you thought of the rules that we emailed to you, and ask us for more if you want more.
Yep.
So this is did we want to announce what we worked on this weekend?
Sure. We're not ready yet, but we can tease the upcoming second iteration of our podcast theme song. So I don't know what comments you have about it, but
you're right. So we wrote a new theme song, considering the startling lack of users or listener submitted theme songs.
Right.
And we thought our current one was good, but getting kind of old. So I think we did a decent job. And so we'll be recording it over the coming days or weeks. We'll see, but hopefully you guys like the new one.
Yeah, and if you don't, keep it to yourself. Email us about other things instead.
If you don't, record your own theme song and send it.
Yes, that's the real solution. I think the thing that I'm most looking forward to about this upcoming theme song, not to spoil too much, is I feel like we're really branching out in terms of instrumentation. I know we haven't really fully, gone through the whole plan, but I know at least there is one other thing we were thinking about adding to this one that the other one lacked. So
Right.
it'll be really interesting to see what comes of all of that.
Right. I don't know that we should. I don't know that we should. Necessarily tease like the various woodwind and brass sections that we've thought about, and since they might not
Right.
happen. But yeah, let's just say that it's going to be a production. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and that
and
would
you're
that would be a very accurate thing to say, I think, for sure.
Yes. So send us your thoughts on the new theme song even before it comes out.
Right.
Send us your predictions for what the new theme song will be like.
And if they're good enough predictions, we might give you $1, but only on the condition that if you make bad predictions, you give us $1.
We'll Venmo request $1 from you.
Those are the rules, but not the rules. Like
Not duh rules.
right, just some other.
Those are the rules of this specific thing.
Yes.
Let's get into the podcast now that we've been talking for 11 minutes.
Yep, that's an appropriate amount of time to just kind of say nothing before we start to do stuff.
So it's been a little while since we did a Would You Rather episode. So we're doing another one today. And I suppose we did not discuss beforehand at all how much we had prepared or what we had prepared, which is...
I think I thought we had discussed last week that we were
right. Well,
preparing.
what I mean is last week we said next week we're going to do this. Let's come up with questions. But normally
Yes.
when we do that, still like before the podcast, we'll be like, okay, so how many did you come up with? How many did you come up with? And then I'm like, oh, I didn't do anything. Let me just go on a website real quick. But I think that since we discussed this on Saturday a little bit, that I just had so much faith that we would both be prepared.
Yeah, so that being said, let's hear it. What's your level of preparedness right now?
I have 6 questions.
Oh, well, okay, that's good. I have 5.
Okay. So just let it be known that I am more prepared.
I could just make up a 6th question if you're.
Well, it's too late. You already admitted you have 5
No,
questions.
no, I already came up with it. I've got 6 questions now. So I think I'll go
wait,
first.
I just realized I had a 7th question here. I didn't see it before.
This is ridiculous. All right.
Turns out no matter how many questions you said, I was going to say I had one more, so... all right.
But you went first, so we all know the truth.
Damn. I revealed that I was actually prepared.
All right, since we both have the same number of questions, which is 6.
Not true.
We can alternate, and it doesn't matter who goes first since we
Not
have
true.
the same number.
We do
And
not.
so therefore, I will go first. Are you ready? Are you ready for my first question?
I'm ready, but I want it to be known that you have fewer questions, so this is going to result in me having to read 2 in a row at the end.
No, that's not true.
If
There's
we
no
have
way
time.
that's true. I feel like either we're going to run out of time and we'll never know, or we'll just keep recording because I can't remember a time where we've ever been like, oh, this is getting too long, but we still have stuff we want to talk about. Has that ever happened?
By the way, in order to delay the actual content even further, I wanted to comment on the getting of the questions, because this being like our 3rd or 4th time with this now, I thought, it's more fun to talk about, well, maybe not more fun to listen to, but it's more fun to think about would you rathers that are like good things rather than that are bad things. And so I made a conscious effort to try and get some good things this time.
Uh-huh.
But still, like, there's way more bad things out there than there are good things, which is kind of weird to me.
It's funny that you said that, because I had essentially the exact same thought.
Right.
And I tried my best to make all of them good,
Uh-huh.
assuming that, you wouldn't make any particular effort one way or another. But even still, like, I don't think all of my things are, like, good,
Right. I ended up with, like, 3 that were bad, 1 that's, like, neutral, could be good, could be bad, and then 2 that are good. That's what I ended up with, even with my conscious effort to try and get more good ones. So, we'll see how it goes. All right. Well, since you have fewer, you can go first, and we'll just pick up the slack at the end, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, okay, not true, but here we go. Let's begin.
It is true.
All right. Well, no, it's not. So, the longer you argue, the more time I have to think of a 6th question.
I have no doubt that you can easily think of a 6th question. I just want it to be known that I came in with more.
Well, I don't know that that's necessary.
Read your first question.
Would you rather be extremely wealthy, like top 0.1% for the next 10 years, and then lose all access to that money and make minimum wage for the rest of your life, or just make exactly the average wage for your given demographic all as you go through the rest of your life?
Right. So, first of all, I would say that I'm going to cut myself out of a loophole here, because I think it would be possible to, while you have access to the money, set yourself up to, be able to, even if you would lose access to the money itself, you could set yourself up with certain advantages when you go into the minimum wage portion of your life.
Like what?
Like, let's say, you talk to a guy that's willing to rent you a, you use your business connections to find a guy that's willing to rent you a nice apartment for really cheap or something like that. When you have lots of money, it's easy to make connections like that, I think.
So you're essentially saying that you're taking the, like, lose all the money to kind of, like, wiped to a totally clean slate, like trying to
I'm saying you're not allowed to do that. Like, once you lose the money, you must live off your minimum wage. That does. I feel like vote
that
Democrat
does
and hope that the minimum wage has been increased by then, in 10 years.
Right.
But I would say that I would choose the latter option of being average wage, because I would say that, obviously, I mean, maybe not obviously, but right now I think I earn above average, and I think I live my life in a way that's, I'm trying to put a tactful way to put this, but I don't okay. All right, let me just say it outright. I don't live extravagantly, I think that the way I live could be reduced. I wonder what actually, what I should do is I should look up what the average wage is and stop rambling.
Right. I'm looking up. I'm trying to look up anyway. What this would be.
Okay, average salary for 20 to 24, which is what we are at the moment, is $33,280.
Right. But you can skip ahead 10 years. So, like, starting when you're 34, what's the average for a 34-year-old person?
Why are we skipping ahead 10 years?
Because you're rich for those 10 years. Who cares about them?
I thought that you were rich only if you made minimum wage for the remainder of it.
All right, so here's the deal.
Okay.
Starting right now, you're a billionaire.
Right.
You're a billionaire for 10 years.
No matter what.
And after 10 years, you lose all of that. Everything's wiped clean. You start over at the minimum wage at that time.
Right.
I just realized what's going on here. We're talking about the two different things. You're looking for average.
Yeah, you understand when I said let me look up the average salary, because that's what the second option is.
Yeah, but I forgot the question until just now. So
okay,
now I get what's going on.
Right. So,
I understand.
Starting tomorrow,
Right.
I make $33,000 a year,
Right.
which is not great, but it's certainly livable.
For
and
sure.
things get better in about 8 months when I turn 25, because the average salary for 25 to 34 is 47,736, which is much nicer.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think I could fairly reasonably live on that salary. And I don't think my quality of life would decrease very much. Whereas, so in the other option, I become a billionaire for 10 years.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, assuming I know that for 10 years I'm a billionaire, there's some interesting implications of that, because at that point, I'm going to give myself, I can live off, $10 million a year, and then essentially my job is to give away, $10 billion in 10 years. Or use it for some good reason, because I know I'm not going to have it at the end of the 10 years.
Okay, that's a good point.
So that might be kind of fun, actually, those 10 years. But from age 34 to 80 or whatever, or whenever I die, or because I certainly would never have enough money to retire.
Right.
I'll be working my entire life and kind of barely scraping by. So I would say that it's certainly not worth it for that, for 10 years of luxury. So I'm going to go with the second one. Now that I've talked for like 5 minutes, what are your thoughts?
I think the easy choice is to say that you're willing to, just be average all along. I think that's kind of the sensible choice. But I think as you were talking, I became more and more drawn to those 10 years in particular, because like you said, I'm going to be perfectly comfortable, guaranteed. So I can do a lot of things with my money besides just spend it on myself.
Right. And the thing is, having billions of dollars for only 10 years, these are like the best 10 years when you would want to have it, right? Where you're young.
Exactly.
You can explore the world, pretty much do literally whatever you want.
Right.
So one of the only drawbacks to that would be, relationships, because it would be hard to make new relationships because you are a billionaire. So,
yeah. The way I'm seeing it, I think, is that being a billionaire isn't just having the money to do what you want. It's like having a superpower where, like you said, you've got all the money to do all the stuff, you've got all the connections, so you can just genuinely do whatever you want.
Right.
You can. There's a lot of good you can do with your money. There's a whole lot of you can help other people. You can invest in projects and lobbying for your political views and so on. It's not like having money and then not having money. It's like being literally one of the most powerful people and then not having any money.
Right.
As opposed to being average, which is like totally fine. I what I wanted to do with the second option really was just kind of give a default that wasn't like because I feel like if it's exceptionally good, like, or even just kind of like sort of above average, that one pretty much is the go-to default option, because that's all I really want anyway.
Right.
Is just to be like comfortable and get to retire eventually, but what about being a billionaire for 10 years? I feel like that's kind of tempting.
Right. So just out of curiosity, as I was thinking about that, I looked up the median wage.
Uh-huh.
And, wow. Let me just say that. For 15 to 24, it's now 47,000 compared to 33,000 before. And for 25 to 34...
Wait. What did you say it was?
It's 47,000 compared to 33,000 before.
The median is higher than mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'm suddenly forgetting everything. Does that mean that it's weighted heavily toward higher incomes?
Right. So median means that 50% of people make more than this and 50% of people make less than this, pretty much.
Right, but if you average them all together, you get a lower number than that.
Right, which means
so that means
which means that the people who make more more than the median than the people who make less.
Which I guess that has to be true because you can only go down to 0, but you can certainly go up as arbitrarily high, assuming that this group includes, like professional athletes and so on.
Yes.
You're going to be
professional athletes
wild extremes.
Professional athletes probably don't contribute very much to the average, but
oh no, for sure not, but it's, they're in there.
Yes,
they're in that bucket.
General, like, anyone in that age group, although it's kind of wild to me that the median for 15 to 24 years is 47,000. Like, I don't know. I just
15 to 24. Really, there's really only a couple of years of, not even college educated people, but people with, beyond, high school education. That's, I struggle to think of anyone below 18 is earning.
Right, and so this data says it's the median household income by age of householder. So I'm guessing that they're not really counting most 15-year-olds who just live with their parents.
So if you're a financially independent 15-year-old, you're certainly making $40,000 or something like that.
Well, you could be making... I would guess that most 15-year-olds who are emancipated or whatever are making less than $47K, but...
or they're like child actors or something.
Right, but there probably aren't very many of them is the point.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. I guess just that's too big a bucket for this age range. Like, I totally get 35 to 45, 45 to 55, but like 15 to 25, there's just too many differences between the people on either ends of that range for it to be one bucket.
Anyway, the what I was getting at was actually... At the 25 to 34 year age group, the median is $70,000 a year.
Wow.
So, I mean, obviously depends upon how we're defining average, but by these numbers, I'll definitely take it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're certainly very comfortable, as opposed to making minimum wage. So yeah, I guess it ultimately comes down to, like you said. At the beginning, you've got to, if you're going the minimum wage route, you've really got to hope that they increase minimum wage before you run out of time.
Otherwise,
you're just so much worse off.
As a multi-billionaire, you can probably do a lot to get the minimum wage increased.
That's true. You could live comfortably on $1 million per year and then spend the rest of your billions of dollars lobbying for, minimum wage workers, which is a very altruistic thing to do.
What's interesting is that a minimum wage increase, this is not really on topic anymore, but a minimum wage increase doesn't cost the government any money in terms of, like, they don't have to spend any money to implement that.
Right.
It may only cost the government... I'm not really an economist, so I don't really know what would happen, but it only may cost the government money if they get less taxes because the economy gets worse as a result.
I think that's kind of the case for, or the case against raising minimum wage, right? Is that's going to put a lot of stress on businesses. Businesses will have to raise prices to accommodate paying workers more, and then that all comes down to worse overall economy. Even though people are making more, they're having to spend more just to put it back into the businesses again.
Right.
And that's coming from somebody who doesn't think that we should raise minimum wage. I don't have a particularly nuanced or informed opinion about it, but I'm thinking that it's been such a long time since minimum wage was raised that it, seems to track to have at
How long
least
has it
some
been?
form of increase. It's been, I don't know. Let's look it up. This is the problem when I start to talk about political things, is I just don't know any facts.
I actually know how long it's been.
So
I was
can't
just curious
defend
if you knew.
any sort of viewpoints. It's been, if I had to guess, if I had to make a random guess, let's see, what can I remember?
So, for a little bit of context, Congress passed a law that didn't go into effect until 2 years later, or the minimum wage increase didn't go into effect until 2 years later at the time.
Yeah, that's the problem, and that's the thing with even now. Like if you pass the proposed bill, as far as I know, it's not like tomorrow you're going to have to start paying minimum wage employees $15.
Right. The Democrats' proposed increase to $15 an hour would take effect over a number of years and not take full effect until 2025. But anyway, if you had to guess, when was the last year? When did the law go into effect that raised the minimum wage, federal minimum wage, to its current value?
2007.
2007 was when they passed the law, and it went into effect in 2009. So pretty close. But
okay, that's what I meant. Obviously.
So anyway, that's enough politics. So let's move on.
Point being that potentially the minimum wage route would be doable if you were a billionaire, but given the data we've actually pulled up now, I think it seems feasible to just be an average earner throughout your lifetime. You'll probably be pretty comfortable.
Right.
And that's pretty good news, I think, for us and our listeners, who I think tend toward above average. So.
Right. So let's go on to the next Would You Rather. That one's quite a long one.
It only took us 15 minutes to talk about the very first one.
All right, so here's the question. Would you rather lose the ability to speak or lose the ability to read?
It has to be speak, right? Like that would be very inconvenient. But losing the ability to read, well, in terms of like living your life, I feel like not being able to speak would be a huge issue.
Yes.
And not being able to read would definitely be inconvenient, but you could always communicate effectively with people and get accommodations for yourself.
True, but at least I suspect for you, we would not be able to do our current jobs while being unable to read.
If I couldn't read, I would probably... How quickly would they discover that I couldn't read and fire me? I think it would be almost instantaneously.
Right.
Pretty
so
much. The first time somebody tried to contact me to do something would be via email or Teams message. I wouldn't be able to read it. Would I still be... I assume I wouldn't be able to write as well?
It doesn't really say that. So I'm going to assume that you can still write. You just can't read.
Okay, so here's the thing. I could probably get away with not being able to read for a little bit longer by writing back to people, hey, can you give me a quick call to talk through that, or something along those lines. Obviously, I would still get fired by not being able to read.
Right.
Because that's a pretty big work handicap. If I couldn't speak, I think I would definitely... I wouldn't get fired, because that seems like the kind of, like, protected class of, disabled person or something that you can't just, like... I wouldn't have been hired in the first place for my current job.
Right. So
that's
here's
the way I would put it.
Here's the thing is, what these are really equivalent to, not being able to speak is like a less bad version of being deaf, and not
Right.
being able to read is like a less bad version of being blind.
Sure.
And so personally, I think that not being able to speak would be not as bad, because I would learn sign language, and you would learn sign language, and this podcast would be in sign language.
Right. And our listeners would learn.
Well,
sign
yeah,
language,
maybe,
or we would switch demographics.
I don't know. So the thing is there are actually, for both of these, even though we would both probably stop being able to do our jobs correctly initially. Right. You could. I know there are people who do, like, for me as a software developer, I know there are, like, blind software developers.
Right.
So I know it's possible.
That must be really difficult.
Yeah.
But
I agree. Like, so the thing is, I guess
software development is probably a pretty good field to be in if you can't read. No, speak.
Yeah.
If you can't read, it's probably pretty much the worst.
Right.
But if you can't speak, you can get away with written communication. You can still, develop code and review code and so on.
Right. So, like, I guess for me, what it boils down to is, if I lose the ability to speak, it really affects pretty much every area of my life except my job. Like, my job would be affected, but really, honestly, not nearly as much as anything else. Like, the accommodations that I would need to still be able to do my job are much more within reason.
Right.
Whereas losing the ability to read would significantly affect my job, but pretty much leave almost every other area of my life intact.
Interesting.
So
when you put it that way, I'm much more inclined to say, like, I would take the thing that hampers my job, but less so my personal life. But I also do read in my personal life, and I think it would be pretty unfortunate to not be able to read again.
Audiobooks.
That's true. Audio, everything, really. You can just text to speech.
Yeah.
This is probably a very good time to be alive if you can't read.
Well, it's certainly better than any other time in the past.
Except
well, that's
for
not
before...
true. For not being able to read, that's not true, because most people couldn't read in the past.
Right. At some point it didn't matter, but when it started to matter, until now is the best time to not be able to read. Not be able to speak would be frustrating, just day to day. Like, that would be an issue. I feel like I can't not be able to speak, though. Because not being able to read is just so... It sounds not good, so I won't pick it.
Well, they both sound not good, so by that logic, you should pick neither of them.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just pick neither of them then.
Yeah. For me personally...
This podcast could go a lot quicker if we're just like, nah, these are dumb. I'm not picking these.
I think... That's what we'll do for the last, 8 that we end up with, since we're going so slowly. So I think for me personally, I would rather lose my ability to read and have to basically either get a different job or radically retrain myself in how to do my current job.
Yeah.
Compared to losing my ability to speak and, having a very hard time communicating with every single person in the world that doesn't know sign language and having to learn sign language myself.
Right.
I think it would be easier to retrain myself to do another job than to retrain myself to read lips and learn sign language. So,
well, I mean, you could still hear, right?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have to read lips. I'm still in like the deaf blind like mindset. Yes, I wouldn't have to read lips, but learn sign language and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. I think we'll just have to disagree on this one then.
All right, let's hear your second one.
So, my second of 6. Would you rather
5
predict the outcome of any 2-team sporting event with 75% accuracy, or be able to predetermine the outcome of one sporting event per year?
Like I decide the outcome?
You just decide and it happens.
Absolutely predict. For sure.
With 75% accuracy?
With 75%, yeah. So, first of all, I feel like the main appeal of deciding the outcome is, like, I can make a team that I want to win.
Yes.
Which is... I mean, the thing is, for most sports, a single game is not going to make a huge difference. Like, really, the only 2 times where I can see that being, like, a huge difference maker is in the NCAA tournament or like the NFL playoffs.
Right.
Where you only play single elimination instead of series. And so... given that, I would pick the prediction, especially since you can make a lot of money with the prediction ability. But even like the other thing is, I don't know that it would be satisfying to watch your team win a game in which you made them win. Like you decided the outcome of the game and knew they were going to win because you had decided that they were going to win.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would say for those number of reasons, I would definitely pick the prediction.
So what's the magic number then? Is there, I guess based on that last point, maybe there isn't one, but like how many sporting events would you want to be able to predetermine per year? Obviously it can't be too high, otherwise,
Right. Where's the line, I guess, is what you're asking.
Yeah.
So, for me, if I had the ability to predetermine sporting events, I don't know that I would use it very often. Like, let's say I suddenly had the ability to predetermine any sporting event I wanted, right? As many as I wanted per year. I think, for the most part, I would just use it to make money on sports betting. And that's mostly it. Like, maybe I would help my team win games if I was really feeling it. But, like, for the most part, sports is interesting because you don't know what's going to happen, and it's exciting because of that. It's much less exciting if you know what's going to happen.
Sure. What if, so, to shift your mindset maybe a little bit away from, affecting games to be in your personal favor, and even to think of betting, like, what if you could just cause chaos and bet on long shot upsets and then make it happen? Or, let's say your opponent is being too successful. Like, the Cowboys need to win one more game to make it to the playoffs, and, you can just crush them right there.
Right. So So regarding the Chaos Alley, Chaos is only interesting because it's unexpected, right? So
Sure.
I think that falls into a similar boat of, if I know it's going to happen and I caused it to happen and I'm certain it's going to happen, it's not as interesting. Now the stopping your rivals from doing well is very appealing to me. But I think that, I mean, it's like a decent ability to have, to just be like, nope, the Cowboys aren't making the playoffs this year. It's just not like It's just not like so appealing that I would like, want that once a year over predictions. So I guess the thing about the deciding outcomes that's better is, you can, I feel like the better use of it would be exactly what you said, just making a long shot bet and having it pay off. Right. Whereas with like the 75% thing, you have, I mean, I doubt I could predict games with that accuracy now, but I think my current accuracy would be, above 50%, right? So,
to some degree, sure.
So I think, the sports betting scheme in that scenario would be more extensive. Like you have to
so the thing with the 75%, right, is you're guaranteed to get ahead, right? Like you've just got to be intelligent about it.
That's
for the purposes of sports betting, it's a guaranteed win.
Yes.
The appeal that I see in the other scenario is, you've got the ability to cause chaos. You've got the ability, if you have one long shot to make it to the championship game, if only you can overcome one hurdle, like if you could just make one change, I feel like that. Sure, it's not exciting that you know the outcome because you made it so, but I feel like for the storylines, for the everything except sports betting, and even the sports betting, if you go for those long shot upsets, I guess that just feels more exciting to me in general.
Right. Well, so kind of as I was talking, I kind of talked myself into the once a year changing the outcome of a game one. Just by the fact that, because it's only once a year, you don't really fall into any of the other traps that I mentioned.
Right.
And the money thing, all you have to do is say, let me put, $10,000 on Gonzaga to be upset in the first round of this year's tournament.
Right.
And even though it's not that exciting when it happens because I caused it to happen, I'll still make a bunch of money and I'll be set until next year when I can, pick the Jamaican bobsled team to win gold medal in the Olympics or something like that. So
that's what I like about that one, is that it's very versatile. Like if you have a reason to use it for your team, great, you can use it for your team. If you like this year for Purdue, I don't think any one game is going to be the tipping point for them, make or break. But like 2 years ago, if we could have said, let's make the Final Four.
The thing is, it was impossible. Like before that game, no one thought that Purdue was the better team,
right,
than Virginia or than any of the other teams that ended up making the Final Four that year. I don't think. But they clearly were, like, at least up there because they played Virginia closer than anyone else did. So
yeah, they were on that level for sure.
I don't know that necessarily that would have been the game that you would have been like, all right, I'm gonna, like, beforehand knowing you would have known enough to have been like, I'm gonna use it here to get Purdue to the Final Four rather than hope they get to the Final Four and then use it like in the national championship game or whatever.
Yeah, I honestly probably would have used it during the Tennessee game, which also went to overtime. So
Right. Honestly,
literally wouldn't have changed any outcomes because just being so nervous about sports.
Right.
Maybe the smartest strategy would just be to stay away from your team, enjoy sports because your team does well on its own merits, and screw up someone else's day because it's hilarious, and maybe you can make money on that.
Right. Yeah, honestly, I'm thinking about it. The thing about the 75% one, though, is that that's like you could stop working. Like, that's like your job is to just bet on sports, and that's all you would ever have to do.
Right. That would certainly be very, very nice.
So, like, I think that benefit outweighs the once a year being able to, like, make a bunch of money.
Here's a slightly off-topic question.
Yeah.
Because I think we've kind of reached a conclusion here. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, I guess my conclusion is that they're honestly pretty close, but I would choose the 75% prediction, and I think your conclusion was you would choose the making the outcome happen, right?
I think it's a really tough decision, especially with your last point about, not needing to work because you're just guaranteed, given an initial starting pool, that you're going to get ahead always for sure. But I think just for the sake of, I don't even know. Like, it would be a lot of fun to just enjoy sports and be a sports bettor, and that's your life.
Right.
And you can do whatever you want aside from that because you've got this money-making machine. How can I say no to that?
I know, right? Like, the once-a-year ability is, like, nice, but once you think about it, the 75% ability is honestly stupid.
It's
too good.
I didn't want to make it 50% because I think, like you said, it's probably pretty easy to be at 50% anyway. Even if literally you just close your eyes and point at one of the two and you're at 50%.
Right. Well,
and probably you can do better than that.
The thing is, the once a year thing will get you the same result eventually. I think. Like, you can just make, if you can pick the outcome, in the beginning you'll have to start small since you don't have a lot of money to start with, but eventually all you have to do is once a year bet $100,000 on something that's like 10-1 odds, and boom, you're set for the year. So, like, you're
set for years and years. Yeah, that's
you can get to the same place. It'll take a little longer.
Right.
But so.
Yeah, you're right. I feel like there's an entertainment value for me in just picking crazy outcomes that you can make happen.
And that's
really
fair.
Cool. Whereas 75% is like good and it is what it is, but it's not exciting in any way.
Right.
To me.
I think that's a good analysis. And I just personally disagree on how exciting it is to make like a crazy upset happen. So
sure.
So
okay, so here's the tangent I wanted to go on beforehand.
Right.
How good exactly do you think you are at betting on games?
You mean at predicting games?
At predicting games.
Right. So,
like, if you were to bet, would you be successful?
Well, so if I were to bet, I would primarily bet on my own teams because I'm most familiar with them.
Sure.
And so what percentage do I think I could do predicting, like, the teams that I follow? Over 50%, less than 75%, so there's my bounds. I would say, I don't know, maybe it would be reasonably close to 70%. Should I become a sports bettor?
Here's the thing. Here's the thought that I'm having, right? Is that if you don't know, like if it's too close to call, just don't make a big risk, you know? Make your big plays when it's fairly certain. And
Right.
sometimes you'll miss, sometimes you'll lose. But even at like even if the line is small because you're heavily favored or the other team is heavily favored and you bet in that direction, you know, you're not getting rich quick or anything, but like you'll come out ahead, I think, overall.
Right.
So here's my question. Here's my proposal. Maybe here's what I think would be interesting to try.
Right.
Could we, you know, obviously not literally make bets, but over the course of a sports season of some sort, pick places to make bets and then, you know, calculate as if we had made bets and just see how far ahead exactly we can get.
Right. Sure.
And then inevitably ruin our lives once we determine with our fake bets that we're successful and then make real bets that go horribly wrong immediately.
Right. So I like your idea.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it would be interesting to track, like, okay, let's say I start with $1,000 imaginary.
Right. Right.
And I can see the line, so I can just say what I put the bets on and then see how I do. So that's a good idea. What I would say is we should do that for the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
We should both start with like $1,000, and then you can do prop bets. You can do any kind of bets that you can find, money line, the actual line, whatever you want, and just see who comes out on top in that. And I expect we would not do very well in that because, you know, we both follow college basketball a reasonable amount, but the tournament is just so crazy. It's really hard to predict like that. So
yeah, I don't think we'll get super far ahead, but I would be surprised if either of us fell behind, right? Or, I mean, unless you're trying to be particularly risky to get further ahead. But the strategy I would employ is basically bet pretty heavily on the ones and the twos, and the threes probably, and the fours if I felt good about them. You know, everybody...
The thing is, bets are tricky, though. Like, you say bet on the one, but what would you do? Because if you think about the line, you're not really just saying the one's going to win. You actually have to say, okay, is the one really going to win by 18.5 points in this game? I don't know. Like, you could bet the money line, which is really just saying the one's going to win, but then you have to bet, like, your full $1,000 to make, like, 200, which is a bit...
It's not great, but it's very, very nearly guaranteed money.
Right.
So it's all about your risk tolerance, right? That's what betting's all about. That's why I'm thinking we won't get rich, but we almost certainly will come out ahead if we're clever about it.
So Gonzaga is playing tonight.
Yeah.
Against some, you know, mid-major that's in their conference.
Against I literally don't care who. I'm betting whatever amount of money you give me on Gonzaga to win.
What do you think the money line was? I'm just going to look.
I don't even... I need to look at somebody else's money line just to remember what the scales are like on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I assume you're referring to, like, not the points, but the literal, like, money numbers, right?
Right. The money line is basically how much money do you have to bet to win $100.
So if it's plus 600, if you bet 100, you'll win 600, right?
So the plus means if you bet $100, that's how much you win, and the minus means this is how much you have to bet to win $100.
Okay.
So I just looked up the money line for today's game. How much money do you think you have to bet on Gonzaga to win $100?
To win $100? Let's see. What's a sensible... I feel like the right answer has to be in the ballpark of like plus 1,000, right? Because who's not betting on Gonzaga right now?
Right.
But is that even like a reasonable number? I don't know. I guess I'll just say plus 1,000 because genuinely I'm not really sure, and I kind of want to know for scale what this is.
Right. Well, it's minus, but the answer is minus
Or whatever.
2,500. So you
Minus
have to bet
2,500.
You have to bet $2,500 on Gonzaga to win tonight to get $100.
Right. So you're on the very near sure thing bets. You're really not.
You're really not right, and because Vegas isn't stupid. Yeah,
Right.
it's very nearly a sure thing, but you're really not going to make that much money off of it. So.
Yeah, and if you do bet enough money to make a good amount of money, and it's wrong, if it's
right, you just
because
lost
it's obviously not a
giant
guarantee.
fortune. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think we should do that for the tournament. But I agree that would be an interesting thing to do, over the course of an NBA season or something like that. Actually, the second half of the NBA season is about to start. We should maybe consider doing it for that too, or maybe I'll definitely at least start doing it, and you can too if you want.
Yeah.
And we'll
I
anyway.
would be really interested in the problem with NBA. I think is just I genuinely don't know a whole lot about it.
Right.
So I would literally be basing my entire bets off of money lines, and then kind of hoping that Vegas screwed it up a little bit in my favor.
Right.
Which they probably didn't, because almost certainly they're better than I am at this sort of thing. So.
Right.
I just. It seems like with a sufficiently large amount of money, you could slowly get yourself ahead.
Yes, I agree, and I think we've spent way too much time talking about it at this point. So,
right. Almost we're at an hour here. Almost certainly.
Are we seriously in an hour?
Yeah.
Holy crap! That's unbelievable.
There's no way we're getting through all of the rest of these, so it'll be
right.
a great 2 or 3 part Would You Rather episode coming up here over the next couple of weeks.
All right, I'll read you my best one left.
Yeah, but give me one more, and then we'll close on that.
Would you rather be able to travel anywhere for free, or be able to eat at any restaurant for free?
I assume travel means literally just travel and
not like lodging. Yeah, it's just plane tickets, bus tickets, whatever means of travel you choose, it's free.
You can get wherever you want and pay absolutely no money. Now that's a really interesting thought. Obviously I need to eat a lot more than I need to eat more frequently than I want to travel.
Right. So it's the thing is, it's traveling is clearly the better thing, but you could take advantage of the restaurant one much more often.
Yeah, I could just every night I could just drive over to Culver's and pick myself up a free burger and
right.
My food budget could genuinely be 0. Right.
My only concern about that one is that I would just get fat eating at restaurants every night.
Yeah. It's also I have to say, kind of inconvenient to have to go to a restaurant for every meal as opposed to I probably still would spend money on food just so that I could make myself a sandwich at home instead of.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I would go to a restaurant for every meal and never pay for food, even though you could do that.
Right. But you could still come out way, way ahead by eating out every night for dinner, and any time it was convenient to do so. On the weekends, you just always eat at restaurants.
Right.
If depending on how flexible you want to get with restaurant, you could always have food delivered to you, right?
Right. I would assume that takeout from a restaurant is fine. You could go to a drive-thru, that would count.
Right.
I would assume that would be allowed. So
it's a matter of
the travel is really nice.
But travel is really nice. Travel is really expensive. And if it was free, you would do it more, right?
Right, personally, I have 3-day weekends every 2 weeks.
Right.
And so, like, I would travel, like, all the time. Like,
You would
guess I'll
be
just
at
fly
my
out to Madison
undisclosed
this weekend.
location
It's free.
always, yeah. Yeah.
Guess I'll just go to Vegas this weekend. It's free to get there.
Right. And imagine, like, I mean, what does it really cost to stay somewhere? You just need to, for the things you're talking about, you need, like, 2 nights at a hotel, right? That's $100.
Depends upon where. Like, Vegas is probably more expensive than that.
Almost certainly more than that, yeah.
But yeah, you know, you're absolutely right. Like, it's certainly reasonable to spend a couple nights at a hotel every weekend.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's really interesting because definitely one of the things that I wish I could do more is travel.
Right.
I feel like I'm very satisfied with the amount of food I eat from restaurants as opposed to from home.
Right.
So if I could just travel for free sometimes, that would be a nice perk. On the other hand, maybe I would come out ahead eating at restaurants at a much more frequent rate than I currently do, saving all of that food money and putting it toward a travel budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try not to do too much math, which I think would defeat the spirit of the question, right? Because in that case, you could probably come up with a correct answer.
Right.
Just on instinct, I feel like eating for free is a winner for me.
Makes sense.
But in like when I retire, I feel like, or rather, if I didn't have to work at any point, not whether I was retired or not, but if I didn't have to work, I think the travel would be better.
Right.
It would feel better. Be a better feeling thing.
Yeah, I think the way you laid it out, where it's like one thing I want to do is travel more, whereas I'm satisfied with the amount that I eat at restaurants now, I think that kind of convinces me that travel is going to be better.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right, and, you know, I personally could eat at restaurants more if I wanted to. I just choose not to. So
That's probably a good point. Like, I probably could eat out every single night if I felt like it. I certainly could not go on vacation every weekend.
Yeah. I don't think Yeah. I don't know. I agree with the general sentiment. I think the travel is going to be the best of these two options, even though they both have some interesting perks.
Right. Yeah. The answer really is, why don't I eat out at restaurants more? Because I don't want to. Why don't I travel more? Because I can't afford to. So,
I mean, yeah. For me personally, I don't travel more not because I can't afford to. I mean, it's not like I couldn't travel more if I wanted to. It's just like not worth it to travel more, if that makes sense. Like,
the cost of travel isn't appropriate for the benefit of traveling.
Sure, I think it would be fun to go to Vegas for a weekend, and I would do it if it was free, but I don't think I would do it if it's the current price it is, and I know that I wouldn't because I haven't. So
That's true. You definitely are free to do so. Maybe not every weekend, but at least one time, and yet you've done it no times.
Right.
So, yeah, if travel was free, I would figure out some trick to housing, and food would be food anyway, right? Food is how it is. It's really just hotels, I think.
Airbnb.
Or Airbnb, or renting a car and sleeping in it.
Camping.
Or camping. Or just free range, park bench, whatever. You know?
That
Travel's
sounds like
free,
a good time.
so you could tour the U.S. being homeless everywhere? Because
you can usually sleep in the airport, right? They don't kick you out.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't care. I feel like there are enough places where you could theoretically sleep.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well,
interesting points.
I think that concludes our episode today. Thanks for listening, everybody. Send us your thoughts on what you would rather do between all of our questions.
I'm looking forward to some really detailed analyses because we haven't gotten any emails in a while, so we know that you've certainly got all the creative energy to email us with many thoughts this week. So plus we'll be doing more Would You Rather in the near future since we have all these questions made up. 6 each, by the way.
Did we have any update on the status of next week's episode?
I think I've told you everything I know, and we can discuss a little bit more afterwards.
So stay tuned for next week. We may be doing something interesting.
Yep, very exciting.
Or maybe not.
I mean, it'll be good either way.
It'll be good either way, but in one scenario it might be better than in another scenario. So
make sure to listen to that episode. Is there really anybody who listens to like some episodes but not all episodes? I wonder if we have any listeners.
Not that I know of, but we clearly... Okay, it's clear to me from looking at our view counts and our subscribers that more people watch our videos than just the 2 people that we know of, or 2 or 3 people that regularly watch our videos, right?
Yeah, but the average watch time has to be like 5 or 10 minutes, right?
I don't know. Like our videos clearly get more than like 2 or 3 views each, so somebody else is watching them. I just don't know who. Yeah. So
if you are one of those people that we don't know about watching, then please email us, of course.
Of course, as I say that, like, the last few views are 1, 2, 4, 3, 3, so maybe I'm wrong. But before that, it's 6, 5, 8, 6, 7, so maybe people are just re-listening to these.
Yeah, the average view duration is in double-digit minutes for most of the episodes. Probably pretty consistently about 25 to 33% of the episode people will listen to.
All right. Anyway, I think we're rambling. So thanks for listening, everybody. Send us an email. I'm Alex.
I'm Alex.
And this has been
Joel.